Do something that is just for you. Do something that makes you feel hope for a future that you cannot logically know is there, but spiritually, you will allow yourself to believe in it so that there's a reason to get up in the morning. Hey friends, welcome back to the Neurodivergent Creative. I do not have any specific topics that I wanted to talk about today. I'm just sort of like thinking about the holiday season and the New Year's resolution season that's coming up. And there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on politically. It's rough. It's rough out here, buddy. So let's just take some time to maybe be nice to ourselves. How do we do that? I don't know. For me, I think I need to go on a phone addiction journey. I need to stop checking my phone in the morning because when I wake up and check my phone in the morning, I just read bad news. And that's not exactly good for one's mental health. So my dream is one, to get a phone that is not a smartphone. I actually asked for one for Christmas. It's a flip phone. It does calling and texting, and you can put MP3s on it so I can play music. It has like a shitty little camera. I'm so excited for this non-smartphone. I will still keep my smartphone because I use it to like record videos and do stuff for social media and whatnot. But I'm going to try and treat it like a computer that I take places. Like, oh, I need to do something on the internet, so I will use my little smartphone, right? But I got to disconnect from the phone thing. It's too much. I do not think that people were meant to have this much information every single minute of the day. It's a lot of information. We are all extremely stressed out. Well, most of us, 99% of us, are extremely stressed out because every single day there's new news that is, a human rights violation, or like some government department is like switching their font from Calibri back to Times New Roman because Biden had changed it to Calibri because it's more dyslexia friendly and easier to read. And like, just imagine hating somebody so much that you overrule a decision like that. And you're like, no, this is woke. I cannot. I'm having a hard time handling how stupid the onslaught of fascism is. Because it's so dumb. Like, I look out my window and it's just fucking dumb. I gotta collect myself. Okay. So that is my little challenge to myself. I am trying to get into a habit of not getting on social media until I have done my morning pages. So morning pages is a morning writing practice. You wake up and basically go write 3 handwritten pages, stream of consciousness, whatever's on your mind. People ask me all the time, like, oh, well, what do you write in your morning pages? And the answer is literally whatever you want. You just have to do 3 pages. Sometimes I do 1, sometimes I do 2, sometimes I write a paragraph. But you are supposed to do 3 because the act of like making yourself hit that 3-page mark makes you get into like the deeper stuff in your head. So for instance, I'll usually start off with like a to-do list, or I'll talk about how I slept, right? I'll be like, I had a weird dream last night. And then I write about my weird dream that I had, or I write about something that's been on my mind or something that happened yesterday. Just sort of top of the mind stuff going on, like conscious thoughts or dreams, which are unconscious thoughts. But that's not the point. And then I usually will write something like, I don't know what to write about. That's acceptable. You can write that for 3 pages. Because then I start getting distracted. I start thinking, oh, well, I'm going to have to work on this today and that today. So then I usually put a to-do list in it, just in the middle of whatever page I'm on when I start getting distracted by things that I need to work on that day. And those things are trying to take me away from the journaling practice. I will then make a list and I'm like, okay, here's what I need to do today. So that way there's no more reason for my brain to be focusing on those things. It's just like, okay, cool. I handled that. I wrote it down. I'm not going to forget. And then whether or not I come back to it later doesn't matter. In the moment, I had to write it down so that my brain would let me continue doing stuff. Interestingly enough, this also relates to first draft writing. So if you're writing a book and you're working on your first draft and you're not sure how to get from this scene to the next scene, or you're not sure how to push into act 2 or do whatever, even like describing somebody's face or the tone of their voice or anything, you can just put some bullet points in there, put a little note for yourself. It's like, describe this outfit, describe this person's hair. You don't have to know. You don't have to have their name or details or backstory or anything. You can just be like, this rough shape of a person will be taking up some space in my story now. And that's basically what you have to do with morning pages too, is sometimes you're just like, I'm not really sure where I'm going with this, but I'm going to write it down because that's my job. My job right now is to write stuff down. It's such a writerly thing to do. When I get distracted and I stop doing my morning pages, like consistently for days or weeks at a time or months, it's fine. I tend to get into this thought that like, I don't have anything worth writing about. And that is not the point. That doesn't even matter. Like, let yourself believe that. Okay, you don't have anything worth writing about. You're not writing to have something worth something. You're writing because it's a practice that helps you access your deeper thoughts. So that's worth writing about, I would think. I would imagine that getting a little bit deeper access to yourself and your thoughts and your desires and the things that are holding you back that you didn't even realize were in there, that's so worth it. It's worth sitting there awkwardly for 20 minutes being like, I don't know what to write about. And your morning pages don't have to take that long. Like mine usually take about 15 to 20 minutes. I know some people who take like over an hour. And I'm like, I don't know what you're writing, because taking an hour to write something to me says you're thinking about what you're writing. But the purpose of morning pages is to not think, just write. Just dump it all out of your brain. And so I know that I do better when I start my day dumping stuff out of my brain and getting to like a nice baseline where I'm like, okay, here's what I'm thinking about today. Here's what, is on my mind. Here's what I've been dealing with and processing, like, especially after therapy or like the day I'm going to see my therapist. Those morning pages are usually very robust. They have a lot going on because I'm thinking about introspecting. Also, if I do have a weird dream, I love to interpret a dream. Sometimes I will pull a tarot card and do my morning pages in response to that tarot card and how I interpret it. Basically anything goes. There's no rules except 3 pages. And it's supposed to be handwritten, but if that doesn't work for you, then you can type, you can voice record, you can doodle. Like the purpose is just to be in the habit of emptying your mind of like the noisy bullshit so that you can get to the deeper thoughts below. And that's a very cool practice. And I find when I avoid it, it's that I usually don't want to deal with something that I know is deeper. Like I'm avoiding it. So if I don't write for weeks and weeks and weeks, it's because I'm probably on the precipice of having to acknowledge a block or an obstacle or a struggle that I am having that I am not yet ready consciously to deal with. If I make myself do the morning pages every day, I will sort of, ready or not, here I come, like deal with the obstacles or whatever the struggle is, because I am making myself go through those motions. And like, that's what a habit is really, like we talk about routines and we talk about habits and we talk about how hard habits are for people with ADHD. I know every day that I aspire to do my morning pages. And then I invite outside influences in. I open my phone. I start watching videos or reading threads or going on Facebook and seeing 15 different articles about nonsense. And then I start getting mad. I start putting more stuff into my conscious mind where I was supposed to be unburdening my conscious mind so that I could get to the deeper stuff. You can't get to the deep stuff if you just keep pouring more stuff on top. So that's what Morning Pages is about. Morning Pages is like a daily, every 24 hours, emptying of like the spit valve in your brain's clarinet. So sorry. My metaphors are uncontrollable, but like, that's what it feels like, right? It's something that you have to do. This is going to be it's TMI and I don't care. I'm TMIing it. Our bathroom sink, you know how you get like, there's like a funky buildup that happens. It's called biofilm and it gets like in like your drain and it's from soap scum and skin cells and hair and all this crap. And I didn't clean it. Like if I clean it every month, like top of the month, then it stays pretty good. But if I forget to clean it that one time a month, then it'll start to like get kind of clogged and there's too much gunk in the sink and it's gross and it starts to smell. And so my partner this morning was like, hey, we need to get some drain cleaner enzyme stuff. And I was like, no, we don't. We need for me to go do the gross thing and like clean all the gunk off. So I put some mint oil on a face mask and I put that on so that I could smell something pleasant. And I went in there with some paper towels and a scrub brush and like I cleaned off the drain stopper thing and I also put some paper towels around a chopstick and like put that down the drain to get all the gross stuff out of like the sides of the drain. I literally don't need to be going into all this detail, But I just want you to know that when you do your morning pages, it is like getting all of the gunk out of the drain. Because if you keep ignoring that and you keep letting gross, problematic, upsetting things just sit in your brain all the time, they're gonna start to get worse. They build up. They make you depressed or anxious. They make you just uncomfortable. And honestly, I think it even like contributes to executive dysfunction. So like when there's steps, right? Steps make it kind of hard. So if I wake up and the first thing I do is morning pages, that's very simple, right? One step, wake up, morning pages. I guess I have to like put a robe on or like make sure that I'm wearing pants if I'm going to like go to my office to do this. But like easy, one step. Whereas if I want to get up and then do this and that, and then shower, and then do this other thing, and do my hair, and get dressed, and then put my earrings on. Now I have like done too much stuff, and now it feels like I don't have time for the morning pages. So for me, simplifying that routine means making it literally like the first thing I do. And maybe that means I should take my notebook into my bedroom and like put it next to my bed. So it's like you wake up in the morning, you do this. This is literally just what you do in the morning, especially because on the weekends, I tend to forget to do the morning pages because I don't come into my office in the morning the way that I do during the week. So blah, blah, blah. It's just Caitlin riffing about morning pages. Another thing that I want to start doing, I guess we're kind of talking about like intentions. Like, let's talk about how to set supportive intentions for the new year. And I don't mean intentions that make you fit in with everybody else. You know, weight loss, pay off all your debt, get debt free, get a new job, make more money. Like these are all, they're fine. You can do whatever you want. But you also will benefit so much by just making some small intentions that are just for you and yourself to build a relationship, right? Like the you in your brain versus the you in your heart. Because being a human is a little bit messy and we have lots of different modes. And if you are living all of your life up in your head, trying to approach everything with logic, avoiding your feelings, not cleaning out the gross drain gunk in your heart and psyche from getting all of like this bad news all the time, that's going to fester. It's going to be gross. I don't want you to have gross, nasty biofilm pipes in your heart or your mind. So teeny tiny little baby steps to rekindle that relationship with yourself. So morning pages is one really great way to do that. And that is something, if you haven't heard me talk about it, morning pages come from The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I want to say this book is from like 1992. Yep, 1992. Okay, so I'm going to tell you that this book is a bit outdated. It is a bit white, neurotypical, able-bodied, it wasn't built for intersectionality. Like it's good advice, but if you are dealing with things like disability, neurodivergence, systemic oppressions of any type, like she just doesn't really super acknowledge that. She's sort of like, oh, just mind over matter. Just believe that you're creative and good things will happen to you. And like, yes, and I believe in manifesting and I believe in like the law of attraction and sort of like putting intentions out into the universe and having them, being open to them coming back to you. But where you lose me is when you start talking about like, we wouldn't have any war or famine or poverty if everybody just held hands and sang Kumbaya and manifested a world without that. And I'm like, no, we wouldn't have war and poverty and all this stuff without like capitalism. Capitalism forces people into this caste system, right? If we simply took care of everyone's material human needs, like if everybody was fed and housed and had access to clean water and had access to education and like literacy and books, like the whole society would be so much fucking better. But people want to pretend like homeless people are homeless because they did something wrong, because people don't want to face the fact that they could also become homeless. Everybody's just like 1 or 2 paychecks from being homeless. Most people in the United States are 1 to a few like missed paychecks away from poverty or homelessness. And we like to act like that's not true. I had no idea I was going to go down on this rabbit hole either. Just trying to talk to you guys about the morning pages. When we can pretend that people's misfortune is a product of their own behavior, Like, well, if that's the life they're living, then they must have manifested that for themselves. It's because they didn't go to school, or it's because they took out too many student loans to go to school, or it's because they're ungrateful, or it's because they rely too much on others and you can't ride that train your whole life. Like, we will find any, even hypocritical and like mutually exclusive like reasons to blame people for systemic oppression. And we treat it like it's just, I don't know, misfortune, luck of the draw, because people don't want to face how like poverty is a direct reflection of like the system that we live in. You can't be such a good person that you never lose everything. That's not how it works at all. That has nothing to do with anything. And speaking of being a good person, like the moral scrupulosity OCD that I have been dealing with, and that's been quite a journey. Like, we've been focusing in therapy on, recognizing that things are not black and white, that there are shades of gray, and that I do not have to always choose the like objectively and morally best option in order to be worthy of love, right? I'm fucked up, y'all. I am a damaged person. And part of that damage is from being treated like my misfortunes are my fault, or my situations, systemic oppressions are my own fault. Oh, well, you got fired because this or that. And it's like, well, there could also be other factors. It could be fat phobia. It could be ableism. It could be this or that. But we really need to stop treating people like we can catch what they have. Like, it's not a disease. It's not icky. Poor people aren't icky. Sick people aren't icky. Homeless people aren't icky. And in fact, like, once you are in poverty, once you are homeless, these systems perpetuate your poverty and homelessness. Like, lots of homeless people have jobs. They are employed and they don't make enough money to rent a home because of capitalism, because the cost of housing is too high. It's inaccessible to people even people who are working full time. You can't rent an apartment on like one person's full-time income almost anywhere in America. Let me look up stats. I have found an article. So this article is from Investopedia, and it is about a year old. So I feel like things are probably more dire than this article would suggest. But the point of this article is that if you make minimum wage, no one in the country can afford to rent a 1-bedroom apartment just on minimum wage. So I found another article that was like, oh, we ranked studio apartment affordability. And I'm like, you don't even get a bedroom? You don't even get a bedroom in our hypothetical poverty articles now? So let's see. The federal minimum wage of $7.25 has not changed in more than a decade, but renting costs have increased. There are no major American cities that hold an average monthly rental cost, which is 30% of a minimum wage earner's gross income. So that is like the general estimate, is that your housing costs should be about 30% of your income should be spent on housing. The problem is that wages are not keeping up with rent. So now we are looking more like 50%, 60%, even more than half of your monthly income going to housing costs is not sustainable, because we also have to eat, and we also have to get places, and we also need clothing and shoes and glasses and dental cleanings. And then we just pretend like it's these people's fault for being poor, that they can't afford a home. Meanwhile, the system is making it so that people can't afford to rent a home. I need to admire the walls for a second and just stare at the corner, because I don't understand how people can really literally believe that if you wanted it, you could be in a job that made more money. If you wanted it, you could find rent that was lower. It's so out of touch, and I don't fucking understand it. I started this talking about morning pages, and now I'm mad at the government again. I always just get mad at the government. Ew. Also, the monthly income of a minimum wage worker on the federal wage of $7.25 is $12.57 a month, which means that a 1-bedroom apartment for a single renter would need to be $377 a month to be considered affordable. My first apartment that I had by myself was a 500 square foot apartment above a fencing studio. So it was noisy when they were having fencing classes. like all these people are running around and having little sword fights underneath my kitchen. And it was $525 a month. And that was like a dream for me at the time. And I was making $40,000 a year. So I'm going to do math. Okay. So I'm making $40,000 a year divided by 12 is $3,333 a month. And this is gross. I'm not taking taxes out of it or whatever. And then we multiply that by 0.3. So I could have technically afforded up to $1,000 of rent if we are keeping your housing costs at 30% of your income. So I was doing pretty good in my $525 apartment. I'm sure that same apartment is now like $900+, maybe even in the 1,000 plus, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe they keep the rent low. Doesn't matter. Why am I reminiscing? Okay, I'm coming back. I'm focusing. I literally did take my ADHD medication this morning and I'm drinking coffee, but still I am all over the place. Oh, right. Because I was talking about how Julia Cameron doesn't really acknowledge like systemic issues. And that's something that I always try to do, but then I went too far the other way. I went too far to the point where I can't even say anything definitively anymore. If I'm trying to sell my book incubator program, I'll be like, this program could help you write your book. It's possible if you show up and you do the work and you do all these things, but like, I can't guarantee that you'll write your book. You have to write your book. That is not confident marketing. That is like, but I'm so scared of being like, you can do this with my help, because what if there's nuance? That seems very black and white. Either I help you write your book or I don't help you write your book. And what if I promise to help you write your book and then you don't finish your book and then you're mad at me, right? Like, this is part of why I've had such a hard time with business for the last couple of years, because I got a little shook up in the confidence arena and the OCD arena, where I have been like really, like, I don't want to say preoccupied. No, it is. I've been really preoccupied with like making sure that people know that I know there's nuance, as opposed to just saying something. And then like, if it needs to be discussed with more nuance, then we can do that. But I get in this cycle, I guess, where I am like, I approach something and I want to capture as much of the nuance as possible. And so what comes out is a bunch of like diluted half messages that don't sound very encouraging or inspirational or confident at all, because I am falling over myself to make sure you know that I'm like, not every single person though. Asterisk. There are some cases where this would not work. It doesn't have to be like that. We don't have to be so frickin' literal all the time. Dude. So anyway, The Artist's Way. We have been talking about this book all year in the Neurodivergent Creative Pod, which is my free community. We are on Discord. We are on Facebook. Facebook's not very active, but the Discord's popping. And so every week on Wednesday, we have a meeting, and there's only like 2 or 3 people who show up, but I talk to them every Wednesday. And we just talk about our current chapter. So we've done 1 chapter of The Artist's Way every month this year. It's supposed to be a 12-week program, but I was like, we're going to do this slow because I don't want to rush everybody. And just time and time again, the feedback was like, this doesn't seem relevant to me because I'm neurodivergent, and like, I don't need to be told this in this way. So there has been a request for us to pick a new book for 2026. So if you have a creative, like a sort of creative shadow work type book, anything about like connecting to your creativity, I would love to hear your recommendations, because I'm going to need to start working on that for the next year. Because we don't just want to keep repeating The Artist's Way over and over and over again. Like, it's got great exercises. It has great principles. The morning pages are life-changing if you actually do them. And the practice of a weekly artist date, where you take like just at least an hour, set it aside, and it's just for you and your inner artist or your inner child. You know, like maybe you take $5 to the store and you just buy something that looks fun, or maybe you sit down and paint, or even organizing your art supplies can be an artist date if you're having fun with it. So I really do like the general shape of The Artist's Way and Julia Cameron's approach, but I think we need to bring it a little more into 2025, 2026. So I'm looking for new books, or maybe I'll have to write it. That's very possible. Actually, I have a workbook that kind of is this. Maybe we'll just do my own fucking workbook, because I already have that. Okay, well, we talked about journaling. We talked about New Year's resolutions and things that are like just for you to get to know yourself. Oh, like spirituality and the moon. That's something I also wanted to touch on because I have found that I really, really enjoy, like, I like my crystals. I have lots of little shiny rocks, and I like knowing that they're used for different properties, and some of them are good for like inviting abundance into your life, and some of them are good for clarity and healing and anxiety. And I know that that's going to sound like nonsense to people because they're like, it's a rock. Like, what do you mean it helps with your anxiety? And for a minute, I was really struggling with the idea of like having a spiritual practice that doesn't make sense to other people. I was worried once again about like the outside perspective of my own spiritual practices, which is I like to meditate. I like, just like a 5 or 10 minute guided meditation really helps center me. It's not like hours and hours. I don't go on a no speaking retreat for a weekend. I don't think I could last not speaking. I'm a gabber. But like, I like having my crystals. That's even become part of my art practice is I'm doing little watercolor, like paintings of my different crystals and making like identification cards for myself. So I'm turning that part of my spiritual practice into part of my creative practice. And it's been feeling really fulfilling. And I also very consistently used to journal at the new moon and the full moon. And then I stopped doing that, partly because I think I got like a bit cynical about having faith and spirituality like in a world that is so shitty. It felt like, why bother? Like, why bother trying to connect with a higher power? Because everything sucks. And then eventually I realized that's the point. Like, the point is that everything sucks. And so if you need something to put your hope and faith in, and that helps you feel better about existing every day in this world that sucks, please do that. Like, religion and spirituality are very important components of our human lives, And some people act like atheism is like the most intelligent thing that you can like believe in. Like, oh, I'm so smart, I don't believe in God. Religion is not about intelligence. Religion is about faith and hope and trusting that there's more to the world than just this experience. Like, there is more going on than we understand. And whatever you call that, maybe you call it science, maybe you call it religion, maybe you call it magic. It doesn't matter. It is how humanity copes with the difference between like where things should be and where they are. And so we have to believe in something that is pure and good and positive as a way to like have something to look forward to. I feel so much more hopeful when I am like interacting with my spirituality, even my morning pages, like by imagining a future where I am thriving. That is a spiritual practice for me, because if I don't imagine a future where I'm thriving, the only future I can imagine is one where I'm suffering. The fascism is here. Like there's not a lot of hope to go around. So like, yeah, I'm going to look at my shiny crystals. I'm going to journal. I'm going to talk to the moon about it. And that helps me cope. And you are allowed to cope the way that you cope. Nobody should make you feel bad about that. And if they do, send them to me and I'll fight them and it'll be fine. So, okay, I'm pretty sure I talked about 14 different things. I'm just going to go send this to my editor now, and then he will turn it into a coherent episode of the podcast for you. Do something little and just a treat for your own soul. Okay, that's your homework. Do something that is just for you. Do something that makes you feel hope for a future that you cannot logically know is there, but spiritually you will allow yourself to believe in it so that there's a reason to get up in the morning. That's what I'm on about today. I love you. I'll see you next week. Bye.
They'll change your approach and tell you a joke to lighten your load and help you along or sing you a song. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do.